Hi, my name is Jerry Pico. I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York, and I grew up there. I lived in San Francisco for 20 years, and currently I live in Munich, where I've been living for the last 8 years. So I've had a very international career and a very diverse life. Professionally, I work in learning, leadership development, including diversity and inclusion for the last 20 years, both in my own consulting practice and in some leading firms in in-house positions. Currently, I'm employed as the head of learning and development for Daiichi Sankyo Europe, a mid-sized pharma company. Last year in our company, Daiichi Sankyo, we introduced a top talent program. The goal of the program was to identify and develop people who could take on broader or more complex roles in the organization. And this is because we wanted to be able to identify our future talent and develop them in a way that they could take on leadership roles. So one of the things that's really important to me is seeing that we have a diverse mix of talent in our leadership pool. And like with most organizations, unless there's a conscious effort to do so, you will find women much more in supporting roles than in leadership roles. So what I proposed to the CEO and the CFO was that we have a representative number of women who are nominated to the program as represented in the overall population of the organization. So which roughly was about 50%, but at higher levels in the organization, as mentioned, we have a lower percentage of women. So we communicated very clearly this guideline, and we had the full support of the CEO and CFO, which made it really be tangible for people. So let me give you an example. If there was a manager who wanted to nominate somebody on his team, or a couple of people on his team or her team, and let's just say they had 4 men and 3 women on the team, or 4 women and 3 men, and they only nominated 2 men, we would go back to them and say, okay, you have almost an even split of women and men, why are you nominating only men? Fortunately, that didn't happen. Most people really understood what was happening, and we were able to get roughly a 45% nomination ratio of women to men in the program, which was a great success. And ultimately, in the end, for our top and emerging talent, we had roughly a 50-50 split. So by this, we were able to not only raise the consciousness of people in the organization, but we were able to bring more women in positions where they could take leadership roles in the next 1 to 3 years. So that's just one step. But the other thing that we did in tandem with that is we developed a relationship with an organization called the Healthcare Businesswomen's Association, and which is a global organization that basically sponsors and supports the development of gender parity or gender equality for women in the healthcare industry. And we took on a major sponsorship role in their Executive Leadership Summit in Paris last October. And I actually participated as a facilitator or moderator in 4 events. And one of the things that we're doing to follow up on that is we're actually one of the founding, Daiichi Sankyo is one of the founding members of a Bavarian chapter of the Healthcare Businesswomen's Association. So we're showing both our employees internally and the world externally that we're committed to attracting and developing and promoting women into leadership roles. One of the things I've done is I've cultivated a really diverse network. And one of the ways that I work with my network the most in a virtual way is on LinkedIn. So there's a lot of really diverse thinkers and diverse ideas there. And I read a lot, but I think most of my ideas come from talking to people from different backgrounds. So I mentioned earlier that one of the things I enjoy doing too is going to conferences, speaking at conferences, and I learn a lot there and meet some very interesting people. So when I was at the Healthcare Businesswomen's Association Leadership Development Summit last year, I was moderating a panel, and this woman named Lorraine Harriton, who is the CEO of an organization called Catalyst, was one of the panelists. And we got to talking before and after, and they have a program called MARC, which is an acronym that stands for Men Advocating Real Change. And so we started talking about that, and it's a really interesting program because what they do is they facilitate conversations within an organization, and usually they bring 20 to 30 people together to talk about how to achieve gender parity and what's the difference between how people, men and women, are perceived in the organization. Some of the things that we've already talked about. And it's usually about 60 to 70% men and 30 to 40% women, and it's facilitated by a man and a woman. So the idea is to engage men in opening up the playing field for women, because, face it, most of our organizations, the dominant culture is male culture, okay, or traditionally has been. That's evolving, it's changing, and the only way that things are really going to change is if men are willing to open the system up and share some of their power. The thing about men advocating real change is, this is something that can be done on a programmatic level, and it can be done on a very, very personal level. So, I think what it takes is a level of consciousness. You have to understand that there are issues that need to be overcome, and you have to be willing to make a choice to change them and do what you can. So, I work in a field that's dominated by women. Okay, I'm actually a minority. And, I have 3 women on my team. And I am always looking for opportunities to promote them, okay? Whether it's internally or externally. I send them to conferences. I get them speaking opportunities at conferences. Internally, whenever we're working on a program, I put them in the front because I want them to get the credit that they deserve because they worked on the program, and I want people to see that, okay? So I think it's a commitment that men need to make, okay, on both a personal level, if you can do it on a programmatic level, to, make sure that you're sharing every opportunity you can with all kinds of people, but especially people who don't necessarily have access to those opportunities. The one thing I can say is that, when I talk about this, I'm a LinkedIn learning author, and I created a course 2 years ago on culture change, and which is actually a lot of people are watching right now because of the crisis we're going through. And one of the things that I emphasize in that course, and I've always believed in, is that nothing changes unless the leadership is behind it. They either need to initiate it or they need to buy into it and support it. So, as mentioned before, with our sponsorship for the Healthcare Business Women's Association and for the Top Talent Program and introducing more gender parity there, I had to go to the board, the CEO and the CFO and some other leaders, and present this idea to them in a way that it made sense from a business perspective. And they totally saw the rationale and they bought into it, which is why, we've been successful in sponsoring this organization and taking some of their best practices and bringing them into our organization, and why we've achieved such great success